7:16. This is all that we've been speaking about at home for a few days now. How do you feel about vaccinating your teenage children against coronavirus? It's interesting. I was fully in favour of this last week. My wife had different views, and then I've wobbled a little bit over the weekend, and now I'm broadly in favour, but undecided. From this week, all children aged 12 to 15 across the UK will be offered one dose of the Pfizer jab, and the move is designed fundamentally to cut down on disruptions to school and missed lessons. That's what it's about. They think they can save around 100,000 lost school days if children have at least one dose of the Pfizer jab. The chief medical officers made the decision after the JCVI, the Joint Committee Vaccination and Immunisation, said it didn't recommend vaccinating healthy children on health grounds alone. So the pendulum swung, and the medical officers thought, well, if it means that we can protect the curriculum and keep them in school through the winter, then it's worth doing. So now, over breakfast tables, maybe like yours, the debate is underway, to jab or not to jab. Maybe in your house, if you've got youngsters, it is a no-brainer that you're absolutely fine to go ahead with it. In other families, you will find that couples and partners are split. And what's brought on a moral dilemma here is that the ultimate decision rests really with the child. Teenagers can make up their own minds. You can have a situation where a mother says yes and a father says no, and then the child is forced not only to make up their own mind, but then side with one parent or the other. And I don't know how you feel about that, but that makes me feel a bit uncomfortable. Weirdly, Professor Anthony Harnden is Deputy Chief of the JCVI. I spoke to Anthony last week. He told me this isn't clear-cut.
It's a difficult one, and it's one of these situations in life which unfortunately is not black and white, like adults getting vaccination. And you know, our biggest concern on JCVI really is that the vaccine would be given for the benefit of children rather than wider society, because we recognise that there are still upwards of 6 million adults who have not received any vaccinations yet, and it would be quite wrong to vaccinate children to protect adults who have chosen not to have vaccines.
And this idea of leaving the decision to parents and children, I understand that, but it is quite a big ask, isn't it? In that with the best will in the world, I can read as many papers as I like, but I'm never going to be as well informed as you are, Professor. Do you think you should just give the instruction, come on, you need to do this? Because none of us, and people be making decisions based on their own close-knit circle of friends who are being advised by Facebook or social media.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think that the advice is that the balance of benefits slightly outweighs the risks. So I think that the advice would be to have the vaccine, but that we recognise on JCVI that this really is not a cut and dried situation, and therefore I don't think there should be any really hard push to make children, to actually persuade children and parents to have the vaccine if they don't feel that that's what they want.
So that's the JCVI view, which is, well, it's sort of up to you, which isn't, speaking as a parent, entirely helpful. What about the teenagers? We spoke to some young teenagers, some pupils at Headteacher of Cheney School, to gauge their reactions.
Looking at it, I want to talk to my daughter. I think it needs a joint discussion. But I think on the balance of everything, and particularly for her educational needs and those in the rest of her school, particularly those who are vulnerable in the school, I think it's probably right to go for the vaccine. I think in a way the JCVI decision was problematic because it made everything a bit grey, but also it showed to me that actually if you look at it as glass half full, actually the vaccines aren't any more risky than getting COVID. They're just on a balance sort of thing. So I think for the benefit of their education, they've all lost so much education over the last 18 months. And she's got a friend whose brother has just recovered from leukemia. I'm thinking we really need to do the right thing and by the collective.
Beg your pardon, that was Jamie Clark, obviously not teenagers there. Jamie Clark, parent of 3 from Oxford, talking about his 13-year-old daughter. What about these teenage pupils at Headteacher of Cheney School? Here they are.
Hi, I'm Marissa. I'm 13 years old and I'm in Year 8. I have not got a COVID jab yet, and I am looking forward to getting a COVID jab when I can. I've decided that I want to get the COVID jab because it means I am immune to the virus and I have a little bit more freedom on the coronavirus, and I know I'm safe. I have a younger sister who's vulnerable, so it means if we get the coronavirus vaccine, we can protect her. I've spoken to some of my friends about getting the jab, and they're all quite excited like I am, because it means that we can do a lot more things and not have to worry about coronavirus. Most people are happy to get it and excited.
Hi, I'm Aliya, I'm 15 and I'm in year 11. I'm so glad to finally be able to get the jab and that we are being acknowledged as an age group. I feel like we have been a little bit ignored throughout the pandemic and blamed for a lot of it as well. It's an easy blame on the young people, but being able to be given this chance is definitely a massive relief. Yeah. Especially since we can't isolate now anymore. It's much trickier with absences. So it would be nice to feel safe, because it is a scary thing and it's an anxiety that would be nice. I think we're getting ours in 2 weeks because we have a sister who's vulnerable, so we're eligible to get it outside of school and get both as well, which I'm very excited about. A lot of my friends are very pushy. Like, I've had some of my friends arguing, like, for it, definitely, but no one I know is against it. Although I do know I have a very aware friendship group of all of this, and a lot of my friends are as anxious as me about it. But from what I've heard, it's a pretty positive thing.
Really interesting to hear those pupils. Rob Pavey's the head teacher at Cheney School. Good morning to you, Rob. Where are you with this rollout now? What information do you have and so on? Are you going to be responsible for administering these jabs?
So, good morning. Well, we heard on Friday that the dates that we're going to have the school's vaccination team visiting, so that's the 13th and the 19th of October for us. And it's being rolled out over the whole of Oxfordshire, basically this side of half term. It's not schools. We're providing the assembly hall for them. It's the school's vaccination team who are the ones who administer all the other vaccinations in school that everyone's familiar with. So it's an NHS team that's coming in to do it.
And in terms of parental consent, will you have to send out those letters, or again, are they coming from the NHS as far as you know?
I mean, like we always do, because the easiest way of getting messages out to schools to go through the school email system. So we will send out the consent. We'll collate those back in, but it is the team that looks at them and says, finally puts the needle in people's arms or not.
More work for you, though, isn't it? It's one more thing for the office to do today.
We're getting quite good at this.
Yeah, I bet. How do you feel about this? Because ultimately, my understanding is, from what the JCVI have told us, that it's pupils, teenagers will be able to make up their own mind regardless of parental consent. Where does the school stand on this? Will you be educating parents and children, or leaving it up to them to make up their own mind?
Well, there's some stuff in the news recently about the Gillick competence test, so that technically children from the age of 12 can make their own minds up, provided they are, showing due competence, which is fine. So I think, but it gets very, very technical very quickly. I believe that children can agree to treatment from the age of 12, but can't refuse it or something. It gets very, very difficult. And up until now, we've always been very, very clear that if the child is under 16, we have to have both the child and the parents' consent. And I think effectively that's what we're doing, because changing messages now about this vaccination, I think, would be a big mistake. So we're basically going to go for both the child and the parents. And if either one of them says no, we won't put them in the queue for the vaccination.
So if both parents say no, but a child says yes, you won't go ahead? No, I'd be very, very uncomfortable with that, and I can see why parents would be extremely unhappy if they say no and then we go ahead and do it anyway. I think technically, legally, probably we're allowed to do that, but in terms of being reasonable with family decisions and so on, I'd be very uncomfortable with doing that. This is vague, this government advice, though, isn't it? It sounds as though you don't know technically, legally, where you stand on this, which is it's far from ideal, isn't it?
Well, yes and no. I mean, I think the earlier clip you played is about right. I don't think there's a massively clear benefit, unlike with vaccinating adults, where I think that the benefits are really very clear. I'm on balance in favour of it, but I don't think it is crucial. I'm particularly in favour of keeping kids in school, frankly, because we're already starting to see a few cases, which therefore each child that tests positive is going to miss 2 weeks of school.
What if a child says to you, my mum says yes and my dad says no? I don't know what to do, sir.
Oh, God.
Talking about my son here. He's not at your school, but
yeah,
it's interesting.
It's going to be really difficult. It's going to be really difficult. The only sensible thing to do is to have that conversation with the parents. I think in the end, if we have a family division, we've got to let the family sort it out, and we can't get in the way. I think with this,
this sounds like Harry Hill's old TV show. You're just going to be standing there in the hall shouting "fight" and letting them get on with it.
Well, hopefully they can manage that in their own front room.
Yeah, maybe.
But I think probably if we get a situation like that, I think we're going to err on the side of not doing it rather than doing it, because you have to have. I think you're going to have clear permission to do something active, and if there is doubt about it, because it's an on-balance decision, not a really clear medical one, I think we would need basically unanimous decision from everybody involved. I can see that could potentially, in some cases, cause a bit of difficulty. I'm looking forward to that one.
Would you prefer clearer guidance, ultimately, from the government on this, one way or the other?
No, I don't think I would, in all honesty, because it is an unbalanced decision, and we do need to start treating people like adults, even when they're teenagers. People can make their own mind up about this. I did a quick straw poll in the class I was teaching yesterday, year 10s. I think we've got about 2/3 in favour of getting it, and 1/3 against. I don't think it is such a clear-cut decision that it matters hugely one way or the other. It will matter for the individual, because the individual may want this more school, which is a pity, but it's not going to make the all difference in the world.
And just finally and briefly, a rise in cases at the moment, or are things stable for you there at Cheney?
No, we've had a small, I think technically classified as a small outbreak in year 9. Over the weekend, there are a handful of cases, and it accelerated over the weekend. It follows a friendship group, and then into classes. So what we're doing is, for a short while, hopefully not for very long, we're reintroducing masks in school, which is a pain for everybody, but it is the simplest thing to cut down on transmission. And we're also doing extra lateral flows tests in year 9 this morning, which again is a pain, but we'll identify some asymptomatic cases.
Thank you, Rob. Have a good day today at school. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Fascinating. I think this is such an interesting moral dilemma, this one, for families and parents. So where do you stand? You happy for your child, your 12 to 15-year-old, to get the jab? 0808 100 9 100. More of this and some clinical advice coming up.